Welcome to Larking Gowen Insights, accountancy and business advice for all, the series that gives you bite-sized tips and guidance on tax, funding, legislation, reforms and much more. With case studies, business advisory and sector specials and even interviews, our team of experts are committed to helping you navigate the world of accounting and finance, with a variety of presenters from across our specialisms. So, let's get on with today's show.
My name is Laurie Hill and I'm a partner at Larking Gowen. Today we're going to be talking about all things ESG and sustainability, reporting and everything else that links to it. And I'm joined by a few guests today, which firstly I'll welcome Jake Bond.
Hi everyone, I'm Jake, VP of Business Development at neoeco. My day-to-day generally consists of kind of carving out and finding key partnerships for us to kind of work with on the ESG reporting side, with us being a kind of key software enabler and working with partners that can build out their advisory services. So yeah, good to be here.
Thanks, Jake. And we're also joined by Angus Harrison of neoeco.
Hello everyone. Good to be here. I am the commercial sales manager at neoeco. Been in the sustainability ESG software space for about 5 years, so pretty well versed in the regulatory side of things and optimizing people's processes. But cheers for inviting me.
Perfect, thank you. As part of this podcast, we're also really proud to announce that we are partnering between Larking Gowen and neoeco to assist our clients with their own ESG reporting, and it's a really exciting time for us as a business and to partner with neoeco on this. And with that in mind, we have our other third and final an important guest, Adam Soall, who is the managing director of Loads4Less, who is our first client who has had an uptake on the software. Hi Adam, how are you doing?
Hi Laurie, yeah, I'm really good, thanks for having me. Looking forward to the future. So first of all, introduce myself. I'm Adam Soall. I'm the director of a company called Loads4Less. We specialise in domestic and commercial removals, storage, clearances and sort of furniture recycling and things like that. Very passionate about recycling. We've been going for about 14 years now. It feels like it's only yesterday, to be fair. But we're just in the process of making some big changes, which you guys are supporting me on, which I'm very grateful. And really excited.
Thanks, Adam. That's fantastic. I think it's let's take listeners back to and almost set the scene of your business, of where it started to where you are now, and where your key moments of change of thought have come in.
Yeah, well, as I say, we started 14 years ago as a bit of just an experiment back then with a handful of flyers and a rented vehicle. Things sort of escalated and progressed from there. I've always had a passion for waste, I'd say. So whenever we'd get a customer say, "Look, can you take this to the tip?" I'd get my tools out, repair it, and give it to someone, or just to keep it in circulation. I'd always try and find a way of not wasting. From early doors, we've always tried to combine loads where possible, especially when we're around the country. If we're going to say London and we're coming empty on the way back, it seems such a shame. So we'd managed to find a few jobs that we could offer discounted rates and at the same time not come back empty and save on carbon emissions. But where we are now, which is probably the change I started making around 3.5 years ago, that little spark, let's say, has developed more into more of a fire. I'm getting more and more passionate about it. The things we've got going on with you guys is great, and neoeco, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Because in terms of your recent escapades to the Amazon and how that sort of impacted your thoughts around moving towards sustainability, obviously that's one of the key takeaways and key straplines of your business. Just tell us a bit about your trip.
Well, the trip that was definitely an experience. That's for sure. I've always wanted to go to the Amazon jungle and see the lungs of the earth. And when we first started just talking about looking into software and what we can do to offset our carbon emissions, us being a company that run diesel vehicles at the moment, electric's just not suitable for what we do. We thought, well, how can we offset this? Now there's planting trees and all this sort of stuff. I thought, well, I'm one that's never backed down from a challenge. I wanted to go and see for myself. And obviously, it's a bit of a self-development one as well, considering I don't even like spiders. I thought I'd go out to the Amazon jungle and seek for myself how we could help. And what we got out of that was tons of knowledge from the locals. Also, I'm in talks with a company there where we can actually buy plots of the Amazon, and what that does, it protects it from loggers, and it gives the local tribes out there, that gives them a job as well, because they then protect it, becomes part of the nature reserve, which is really nice. It's great.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. So sustainability in business is obviously really key, and I think the experiences you've then gone and had in the jungle in the Amazon, and then what you can then bring back to your business is key, and how you can try and do things in a more sustainable way. Having done a bit of research, there was a report back in 2022 by IBM that they roughly came out with that 3 out of 5 consumers were looking at socially responsible or sustainable products when they're looking at how they make their purchasing habits. So it's obviously you stepping and being a first mover within this space is quite a key. Will hopefully be of benefit to you and your business, which is what we're trying to do, trying to improve business going forward. And that's where the team at neoeco and what they can do on the sustainability reporting side is really key, because having good data and having data that can be backed up is really important. And I think it's interesting just to hear from the guys at neoeco as to why they feel that sustainability is such a growing area and such an important topic, and how you're looking to help businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in first, Angus. I'm sure you got thoughts as well. But from our side, we work with companies across the board, from kind of startup SME all the way to enterprise. Obviously, enterprise companies of a certain size, they're being mandated on a bunch of regulations which they know they need to abide by, and they need to make work for them in terms of a reporting perspective, but also all the way down the chain. And that's why, Adam, I think it's a brilliant thing that you're doing, because along the way, somebody in your supply chain is going to need some information. So it may be these top ones that are being mandated now that are just kind of finding their way from a regulatory perspective, but they're going to have processes in place to get their kind of primary scope 3 emission data from the people in their supply chain, and then that company is going to need data from their supply chain. So you can easily see how the knock-on effect is coming, and I think the barriers are moving to smaller companies, so everybody is going to need to do this reporting at some point in the very near future. So I think it's brilliant that you're ahead of the curve, and if anybody you work with the biggest law firm in East Anglia, which hopefully you will, I don't know if you already do, but let's hope, then you're going to be prepared and equipped to be able to give them that information. So I think it's absolutely brilliant, and that's kind of what we're here for, to help clients and companies do that.
That's exactly right. I mean, when I started changing and making the development and the changes to the business, probably about 3 years ago now, since I started training and developing myself first, so I could then put the bigger picture and start working on what we had planned for the future. Back then, and this was probably 3 years ago, one of the trainers said to me, you really need to be on this. This is the future. No one's going to, governments and things are going to only use you if you're working on becoming a net zero company, if you're working on lowering your emissions. And when we went through, we did a little. It was like a little taster class of what was expected. I said, well, half of that I'm actually doing already. I just haven't broadcasted it. I just did it because that's the sort of what I was putting into the business. So it's about advertising. And now, when I came to Larking Gowen at first and said, this is what I'm doing and this is where I'd like to go, it's a shame we can't track that. And that's when it is like, well, hang on a minute. Well, we can help you with that. So how do we now track it? So we've like Laurie said earlier, so we've got actually data to back up what we're saying.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a growth area for your business and for all businesses. So I think it's something that is, as Jake says, it's going to be at the moment it's top down and coming from the large businesses looking at their supply chains. And I think from a commercial perspective, it helps businesses within the SME market to actually differentiate themselves. And probably even from the perspective of neoeco and how you differentiate yourself within your own market of the reporting function. I think it's what you do is fantastic, and how it then links in is we really like how it works. I think probably from Angus, your perspective on the sales side, where do you think the real changes or the real benefits are going to be?
A very good question, and probably I don't have enough time to answer it, but I think one of the great things that neoeco are doing are consolidating the level of software and the level of tech you need to kind of get ahead of the curve already. So as Adam quite rightly said, like many businesses today, small, medium, big, are already doing this. They just don't know that they're doing it, or at least they're collecting the data or have access to the data. So by having a plug and play system that's going to be easy to get up and going, companies can start making improvements quite quickly. Another great benefit, Adam, I'm not sure if you're already seeing this, but despite sustainability being like a business imperative moving forward, it's a huge opportunity for companies just to become more efficient. So you can see where you're maybe spending too much money on energy in buildings or on fuel. Um, you can, yeah, make your business lean and mean, I suppose.
Well, it's funny you say that because that's exactly what I'm doing right at the moment. I've been working on the general efficiency of the company and on obviously looking into and streamlining any expenses or now's the time. And this is where I think we'll make actually a saving. You know, I'm really looking forward to working with everyone on this. Not only are you then going through every single expense to see, you know, where you can where you can obviously shave certain expenses down, but you're going to be looking as well at those suppliers as well. You know, for me, for example, I know that all my packing materials that they're made from recycled materials, they're ethically sourced and things like that. But if they cost me 5 pence more or 10 pence more a box than the other ones that don't, and this one's going to help help my carbon, lower my carbon emissions, then I'm going to use the ones that are 10p more. And at the same time, you're streamlining because you will be getting away with all the expenses you probably don't really need.
I think as well, like, and Laurie, I think this is an interesting thing for you. Like Angus said it just then, is businesses are doing a lot of this kind of pre-work already, even though they don't realize it. And we always say internally, and like I think people need to start viewing CO2 as almost like a currency. Like the process is exactly the same, right? Like you reconcile your general ledger transactions to your kind of sustainability data points, but a lot of the kind of work that you have and the foundational data, it's there. So taking that first step, it doesn't need to be this really big piece of work. And I think that's obviously what Larking Gowen are seeing on this side of thing as well, which kind of pioneering it in a sense, because a lot of people are kind of waiting and you're seeing how the environment develops, but taking ownership and kind of taking that first step is kind of key.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we feel as well, because having been to a conference that was focused on sustainability in practice for professional firms, there's a very limited number of firms who are actually delivering any form of ESG advisory service line, whether that is from the perspective of our side, and it's more to do with facilitated advisory, not necessarily going down into the assurance reporting as yet, or the carbon accounting. I think it's intriguing because in these firms see it as a key growth area. And I think we wanting to be part of that for us as a business, but it's also for our clients to benefit from, because having the access from our side to data from a financial perspective, but also the ESG data for clients that they can then use and we can use to help them on an advisory front. It all interlinks, and by having businesses where you can collaborate with other effectively advisors, because neoeco are a ESG advisor as well to Adam and his business, that we all work in conjunction with one another, and it makes the outcome for the end client, as Adam and Loads4Less, as beneficial as possible. So I think how it all wraps together is a really, really beneficial thing. Hopefully that's how we can then try and promote it and promote Adam and promote neoeco within the environment area and the wider S and the G side, because it all comes together. And I think the instantaneous reporting you can have with you linking your data through to your numbers and everything else, it all comes back to a lot of the narrative is driven by effectively if it's rubbish in, you get rubbish out, whereas actually if you've got good data going in, you've got good data coming out. So it then benefits the wider pool of the network, of the business network. And I think from a business perspective, I think probably the SME market is a real key area for this type of work. And I think probably from your perspective within neoeco, that's probably quite a key growth area, because you can then help them report up the chain. Like Adam will be able to now report up the chain and down the chain from a supply perspective and delivering perspective.
Yeah, I feel quite privileged to be part of it. It's great because it couldn't have come at a better time, to be fair, when we're making all the changes. And I think Jake did a small report, because it's very early days, but did a small report already, and it's stating we're already above the average, aren't we? We're underneath the average, sorry, for a company our size, isn't it, in our industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the kind of first steps that we tend to, we looked at for Loads4Less was just their intensity of spend in terms of the carbon emissions. So against the British pound, what is your intensity of spend? And Adam, because of the things that he was putting in previously in terms of the work to make his business more sustainable, he was already under the industry average in terms of benchmarking. So now it's just a kind of an area where obviously Adam's going to have his own goals to reaching net zero. And Angus, I know you've kind of some metrics around what companies need to do. And I think Adam's ahead of the curve there. It's just a case of making that better and better. Obviously, making more changes, having a look at kind of where we're spending in terms of budgets. Can we make any changes to make sure we definitely meet our reduction plans, and kind of getting a bit of a strategy together within the system. But so far so good, and that's kind of accidentally. So I think it'd be interesting to see when we actually get eyes on all of this rich data what we do. So yeah, long road ahead, but a positive one, I'm sure. And Angus, I'm right in thinking, right? There's going to be some there's rules and regs in place anyway for companies of Adam's size.
Yeah, I mean, already there's things in place by the UK government. So we're expected to be net zero by 2050. So dependent as to whether or not you want your business to be around for that length of time, I mean, many businesses are going to die, many businesses are going to start. But if you plan to be a business by then, you're going to need something in place, and it's only going to get harder. The level of regulations that we've seen in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years alone is just a testament to how granular people are planning on getting with this. We'll start it off as maybe just carbon accounting. You've now got thousands of different metrics you can start measuring throughout the year to see how your company is progressing on their ESG strategy.
Because with regards to an ESG strategy, and even with having one or where to start, almost having a reporting solution is part of that. Sort of, what's the real benefits of your software and that businesses can get?
Our kind of ideal or USP is we want to consolidate everybody's toolkit, right? There are, in most companies now, certainly when you get to a certain size, there are different arms of your kind of wider sustainability strategy. So there might be a team that's looking at your suppliers. There's a team that's looking at your products. There's a team that's looking at kind of capturing all of this data and doing some kind of general top level, corporate level sustainability reporting. Our belief is that we want to bring that all into one place, centralize it, and have all of the teams work from the same consistent environment. So because of that, we have integrations with, our sister company, Minvaro. They have an LCA software, which is product-led sustainability. So we can integrate data points from that solution into neoeco. We also have a module whereby we can feed in primary supply chain data, which we spoke about now, which is obviously data in its richest forms. Obviously, you need to kind of regulate that and make sure it's what you need it to be, and it needs to be audited and things like that. But if you can get that data, that's brilliant. But then we also have various integrations, as you'll know, Laurie and Adam, where you can connect your accounting software to get a baseline. You can connect your ERP systems, your HR systems, and all of that data will fill through. And you can get like a kind of spend-based analysis really quickly and really easy. So it gives you something, right, to be able to start working with. From there, you can kind of build in and get more granular and more granular, move your calculations over to activity-based calculations, which again is one step towards a better data output. And it's really straightforward and simple. So I think if you combine all of this data in one place, not only can you get a quick return and output, you can get more and more and more accurate. And over time, although there's not too many regulations now about data accuracy and things, they're going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. So that's kind of how we built the solution to be scalable. And Laurie, I'm sure that's kind of what you're seeing as well at this point. So yeah, lots to do still. I think it's an ever-changing landscape, but I think we've got a good foundation there already.
Yeah, so from my experience so far, which is very early days, I've thought the changes it's made us make changes as a company, which is great. I know, but what Angus said earlier when he said, you start looking into your supplies, you really do. We changed and we want to become more paperless. So we've got an industry standard sort of CRM system that's really helped us reduce our carbon emissions. Then that wasn't enough, so we looked into the techniques our drivers are driving at. We got tracking software that then now monitors their driving techniques. We train them on more efficient driving techniques, and then we're working on the general efficiency of the company as well. So as you're doing this, you're making these improvements to the company, and at the same time you're actually saving and helping you become more net zero, aren't you? Working on that.
It comes it comes back to striking the balance between sustainability and profitability. If you were to put it on a scale, they're relatively even. However, you'd want the profitability to be pretty key, because if you're not profitable, you're not going to be in business that much longer. So it's then striking that right balance. And I think having the ability to scrutinise the data to a greater extent actually gives you something to then work with better. And from the perspective of, when I think about it on our side within Larking Gowen and what we do from an advisory perspective, we look at it almost on partly a 5-step process. So you've almost got trying to identify what you want to do within the ESG, what are your actions, how are you going to deliver it, how can you measure it, and then how can you market it. So I think within that, you've got really key points of almost that neoeco, from my perspective, can fit in all 5. So, and I think it's then the fact of the reputational benefits of your sustainability credentials as a business then will allow you hopefully to have that bit of extra margin on top of your competitors. That margin is purely a sustainability margin, but in essence, because you're having high. And going back to your point earlier, Adam, if you're going to be choosing a particular supplier that is going to be X amount of pence per reel or box or whichever, it's going to be a bit more cost than what you're currently paying. We've then got to build that into the future and forecasting as to how that rolls through into your margins. And I think if businesses and consumers are more aware of what the environment is, and people's thought processes and approaches changing, and therefore that benefit will hopefully be a monetary benefit further down the line. So I think it's ensuring that an ESG strategy works alongside the overall business strategy, because in essence they need to interlink. Because if they're running and they're rowing their own boat, sometimes they might row the opposite direction, for example. So I think it's key, and that's where it comes back to the point of having people working together for the same end goal, which I think we're all trying to do and trying to achieve.
Yeah, I can agree more with that, and I think that is also being reinforced by regulations. So you're seeing that, especially in Europe, where sustainability reporting is basically now coming equal to financial reporting. And financial reporting is a cyclical process, and the process that you just described, Laurie, is a phenomenal process. And it's then key to think that actually it's not just a one-time deal. You've got to do it again and again, and keep, as you say, business strategy and the ESG strategy aligned. Otherwise, it's going to be like playing a game of tug of war against yourselves.
Yeah, and exactly, and I think that's key within every business, making sure you've got everything aligned and everyone rowing in the same direction is what it comes back to. And I think in terms of bringing it back to our kind of partnership and working together, if I were to pose a question to you, Adam, what would you be looking to achieve in the future? What does success look like to you?
I've always had thoughts of sort of going nationwide. The reasons being, we do go all over the country, but if we've got a few more depots in key areas, then we can tie in more jobs and share part loads, offering a discount to our customers at the same time reducing our carbon emissions. Now that was always the dream. We use 3.5 ton vehicles. We don't use great big lorries, so that's why we try and sort of tie things in as best as possible. But moving forward, I want to be able to trace, and it'll be really good to be able to really go through the whole business and trace exactly what we're saving, how we can reduce our carbon emissions. I would like to, once I get this model right, which we're nearly there, and we'll have quite a lot of data as well to back us up by that. I'd like to we'd like to go back into Cambridge and see how the Cambridge market likes what we do. So yeah, but once we've got all the data and the model here is how I need it to be, then we'll be looking at Cambridge, then Suffolk, and then see where we go from there.
That's great. Aren't you speaking in Suffolk next week?
I'm actually, in the business leaders in Ipswich. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm getting a little bit more used to it now. So I'm just looking forward to learning. I don't know much about it. I don't know all the fancy names. I don't know all the terms yet. But as I'm getting involved in it, I'm getting more sucked in. So it's like one thing turns into another, and I'm really getting excited and passionate about it, because not only is it something that I've always been passionate about. It's now seeing a difference, actually being able to see it on some reports, isn't it? It's not like, you put your plastic bottle in the recycling bin. That's the end of it, isn't it? This is we could actually, as a business, see, and we will actually benefit businesses by they will benefit by using us as a company because of the things we have in place.
No, that's fantastic. If I was to pose the same question to neoeco, to Jake or Angus.
Yeah, I think for this, we obviously would love to see Adam benefit and hit all of his goals. But I think you hit a really good point there as well. It's going to become a point where using a solution, and we'll be able to evidence this through the reports that we're building for Adam, that vendor selection is going to be critical and contract loss. I think companies are soon going to start looking and getting eyes on businesses in any walk of life, but certainly in kind of logistics and removals like Adam's industry, and side by side in companies and people that have a carbon reduction plan in place or can report on the data that they need, they're going to win the contracts. And any contracts that are currently active, when it comes to renewals and things like that, if you don't have something like this in place, they're going to lose that contract. So for us, out of this situation, our partnership, I think it would just be to really stabilize that from the ground up. Obviously, Adam's size of company is way ahead of his time. So it's a case of getting all of this out, kind of evidencing that. And, I think this could be a great case study from my side anyway. So that would be what I'd like to get out of this.
Perfect, thank you. And I'll sort of take this opportunity to probably wrap it up for this episode. And I just want to thank Jake, Angus, and Adam for partaking and being involved and being so open and honest. It's a really, really, really great thing to hear from you all, and a real positive change that we're making for Adam. And in working together, we can then help deliver for everyone. So hopefully this will give our listeners an insight into what we're trying to achieve at the partnership. And for those, if they want to get in touch with anyone on this call, please feel free just to drop a note into the Larking Gowen inbox, and we'll be happy to have a good conversation and point you in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Could I just say a little word before we go, Laurie, please? I'd just like to say once again, thank you ever so much to Larking Gowen. Not only did they get me out of a sticky situation a couple of years ago, but you've been absolutely fantastic. The support you've given me, I'm really, really grateful. The same to neoeco as well. I feel really privileged that you're using me as a case study. Really looking forward to it. I'll put my everything into it, like I do at most things I do. But yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to you guys for the support.
Thank you, Adam, for those kind words. That is really, really appreciated from our side. So I think as we round up, think about some key takeaways for our listeners. Obviously, we have our partnership between Larking Gowen and neoeco and what we want to try and achieve together. It'd be interesting to hear from Jake as to what their views are and what we can try and do together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from our side, what we feel like we'll bring to this partnership, and obviously consequently the clients involved, is we're going to be a key enabler. So we're the place where you can get all of this data. Angus mentioned it earlier, like, companies are doing things or they have access to this data they don't realize already. Bring it all into one place, whether it be supply chain data or, from your general ledger or anything like that, into a place where you can use it, see it, and actually understand and get a foundational understanding. And then basically make it easy to start generating reports or kind of come out towards disclosures like IFRS and make that straightforward for Larking Gowen. So obviously you've got your own on this, Laurie, your advisory services, but I think we're going to be the enabler that brings that data to life for you to be able to use.
That ties well in with our referred to as our facilitated advisory service line, with almost a 5-step process of we want to try and identify, action, deliver, measure, and market, and how we can then help businesses effectively develop an ESG strategy and then align it with their business strategy themselves. And on top of that, how we actually help clients deliver on their strategy, whether that's involved with budgeting, forecasting, margin assessment, or supply chain overviews. We can come in and help them be one to make improvements, but two to almost be an accountability. Almost you could class ourselves as a non-exec director for an accountability around sustainability. So hopefully that is where we would get to in a nutshell. So again, thank you to all three of you for your input on this episode. It's been really fantastic. And for our listeners, all the details to get in contact are included in the show notes. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us for Larking Gowen Insights, Accountancy and Business Advice for All. Don't forget, you can find more information about today's topic and more about how our team of experts can help you in your business by visiting our website, larking-gowen.co.uk. Join us again next time for another fascinating insight into the world of accounting and finance.